7 field goals may have led to the Washington Commanders' win in week 2, but behind the scenes, it's the coaching adjustments that really led to the Washington Commanders taking first place in the NFC East. So that and more on today's episode of Locked On Commanders.
You are Locked On Commanders, your daily podcast on the Washington Commanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, everybody, to this episode of Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, David Harrison, credential member of the media covering the Washington Commanders for Sports Illustrated's CommanderGameDay.com. You can also find me writing for WUSA9.com as well, the CBS affiliate here in the DC area. I'm here with you every Monday through Friday. I thank you for coming through today. Everydayers, greatly appreciate you coming through every single day. Locked On Commanders is your daily podcast covering the Washington Commanders. And if you haven't already, you can subscribe for free on YouTube or wherever you are listening to today's episode, in which we're going to be talking about acceptable penalties in the eyes of head coach Dan Quinn. We're going to give out a fan-voted game ball from the Week 2 win. We're going to talk about what the Commanders need to keep, what they need to trash from their Week 2 performance, and we're going to talk about how the Washington Commanders offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator adjusted appropriately to make sure their players were in position to get their first win of the season. If you want to get even more out of Locked On Commanders, all you got to do is sign up to be a Locked On Commanders insider today at joinsubtext.com/LockedOnCommanders. From there, you text me, I'll text you, and what you're going to get is communication with me, inside information, bonus content, all kinds of fun stuff. So again, go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnCommanders. Try it out for free for the first 2 weeks. And if you like it, stick around. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com to get started today. That deal is almost over. This is the last weekend for you to take advantage of that. This is our AAR episode, After Action Review. So this episode, we break down what the Washington Commanders wanted to do, at least what we can glean from what they wanted to do based on the first 15 plays of the game, what the Giants wanted to do against them, and we go through, talk about what happened, and then we lead into what we want to see sustained from that event, improved from that event, so on and so forth. So starting off with the Washington Commanders offense, right? So the New York Giants defense, pre-week 2 defense, we only get 1 week of game tape, right? So it's really hard to kind of take away and say this is the identity of the New York Giants defense from just 1 week of game tape. And you also have the possibility of this team looking at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers from week 1 and saying, ooh, we really like what they did there, and all these things. So when you look at the Giants defense from week 1 to week 2 in the first 15 plays of the game, what the Washington Commanders faced was a Giants defense whose 3-man front usage was down from 62% in week 1 to 42% in week 2. The heavy boxes increased 30%. Single high shell usage doubled. Zone coverage increased nearly 40%. Closed middle of the field was nearly 20% increase. The New York Giants used 4-man rushes 78% of the time in week 1. That was still their main source of attack, or main approach to attacking the Washington Commanders, but it dipped 18%. So it went from 78% usage to 60% usage, again, in the first 15 snaps of the game. And their blitzing went up 20% from week 1 to week 2. So the Giants defense came out in the first 15 snaps against the Washington Commanders and definitely had a different approach to what they were going to throw at Jaden Daniels. And basically what I take away from that is that the Giants were trying to force Jaden Daniels into quicker decisions while also patrolling the middle of the field to contain scrambles, react to Jaden Daniels trying to scramble, stack the box to prevent them from using their running backs to create second and manageable, third and short type of situations, which are obviously advantageous to young quarterbacks. What ended up happening? Well, in those first 15 plays, the Washington Commanders called 10 passes. They called 5 rushes. Jaden Daniels was 6 for 6 for 32 yards. So a little over 5 yards per pass or per completion there. He took 2 sacks, lost 8 yards in those sacks, scrambled 1 time for a gain of 9 yards. There was 1 defensive penalty for 5 yards and a new set of downs. 5 times they ran the ball. They gained 19 yards. Brian Robinson specifically, 4 carries, 18 yards in those first 15 plays. Jaden Daniels, 1 designed run for 1 yard. So that was the first 15 plays. And typically, those are the plays that are scripted by an NFL team. So what that says to me is that the Washington Commanders were basically looking, the way that the Washington Commanders approached it looked like it was indicative of a team expecting to face fewer blitzes. Remember last week and going through Shane Bowen, the Giants defense coordinator's history with the Tennessee Titans, before he was in New York, not a heavy blitzer, right? So it's indicative of a team looking to not face a lot of blitzes. Good split of outside and inside runs early on from Cliff Kingsbury, kind of probing where the success points will be. Where are we going to have our biggest opportunity to gain chunk yards? I like that. Early screens tend to work best against teams that are in heavy man coverage, which is kind of what you would expect from the Giants' tendencies. And again, Shane Bowen's tendencies didn't work as well here in week 2 because they were in zone pretty much the entirety of the time. A lot of Jaden's first reads were outside of those screenplays, that is. We're in the middle of the field. So again, anticipating middle of the field open looks, which is what the Giants gave the Vikings mostly and what Shane Bowen has used in his history. But here in this week against the Washington Commanders, Shane Bowen came through with a lot more middle of the field close. Now, it could be because you're anticipating Jane Daniels, you're anticipating the Commanders offense, you're anticipating and you're using some of what the Buccaneers showed you, or it just could be Shane Bowen adjusting to his team saying, okay, look, I can't use this Giants defense the way I've always used my defenses in the past. It could be a combination of the two as well. So what happened from all that? So that's what was supposed to happen. That's how the Giants attacked the Commanders. It's how the Commanders countered their attack to the Giants. So what ended up happening, first drive of the game actually lasted longer than 15 plays, but the first drive of the game, first 15, resulted in a field goal, the opening score of the game. But also, Jane Daniels passed up 2 open looks on his first sack of the game. When he scrambled, he actually had 2 checkdowns available that he probably should have taken. And there was an outlet option on the second sack of the game after he looked off a slant to Zach Ertz, which to me, you got to deliver that slant pass to Zach Ertz. Jane Daniels ends up getting sacked, could have created a 3rd and 1, instead created a 3rd and long. Now, ultimately, the Washington Commanders end up gaining the yards to get a 4th and 1, which is great. And then the false start happened and a field goal. So that's what ended up happening in the Washington Commanders' first drive. However, something of note, the first 15 plays, the Washington Commanders dropped back 10 times. That's 67% of their first 15 plays. So clearly came in with a pass heavy approach. However, 31 times in the next 67 snaps in the game, they called a drop back. That number went down to 46% of the time. So Cliff Kingsbury identifying early that running was going to be more successful and certainly adjusted his approach because of it. Now, flipping sides to the Commanders defense in the first 15, differences from week 1 to week 2 against the Buccaneers and against the Giants. The Commanders' 4-man front usage was down to 24% or was down 24%. 3-man fronts were used to replace it. Light boxes went down 12% overall. However, light boxes picked up after the Giants' first drive of the game, which resulted in their first touchdown. More on that here in a minute. 2 high shells increased by 15%. Only 1 man coverage snap in the first 15 reps for the Washington Commanders defense. They closed the middle of the field slightly more than they did in week 1. They used 4-man rushes, 15% more than they did in week 1, and they only blitzed once in the first 15 reps. They brought 3 rushers once as well. So definitely, by and large, 4-man rushers. And basically, from what I saw from the Commanders tape on defense, Joe Witt Jr. decided to go lighter up front in favor of having more availability in the middle of the field and deep. Went heavy to start, but after giving heavy boxes to start, right? So 6 or more than 6 defenders in the box at snap. But after giving up a quick touchdown drive, reverted back to lighter boxes, relying on closing ability over trying to smother the New York Giants rush offense and rushing the quarterback. 2 high shell coverage increased to limit explosive plays, and they closed the middle of the field to help against man beaters and scrambling quarterbacks. And honestly, they were a little bit less aggressive, and I think that's likely to help the struggling pass defense that we saw in Tampa. So what happened from that approach? Well, Daniel Jones, the second fewest rush attempts against a Washington defense in his career, only the 3rd time in his career that he's been held to less than 35 yards rushing against the Commanders defense. The Commanders defense did give up the same amount of explosive plays overall, 7 of them against the Buccaneers, 7 of them against the Giants, but none of those explosive plays ended in the end zone, which was different against Tampa Bay and is somewhat significant. The turnover that was caused, the fumble that was caused by Benjamin St-Juste, recovered by Jeremy Chinn, came from a 4-down lineman look. The Commanders had a light box, so only 6 defenders in the box. 1 high at pre-snap, 2 high. They shifted to 2 high, cover 2 zone look post-snap. So again, that 2 high shell predominant there. They went from a closed middle of the field to an open middle of the field post-snap. No blitzers, good top angle by Jeremy Chinn. Terrible tackle attempt, to be quite honest with you, by Jeremy Chinn. But Jeremy Chinn's top coverage, top angle over Devin Singletary allowed Benjamin St-Juste to recover after losing contain himself, punched the ball out, caused the fumble, which was recovered by Jeremy Chinn. And then ultimately the result, what happened? 21-18 win for the Washington Commanders. And because the Cowboys and the Eagles also lost, They are now in first place in the NFC East division. I don't care that it's only week 2. We're going to take it while we got it. And bottom line up front, say what you want about this team so far. Say what you want about the struggles. There's certainly plenty of areas for this team to improve and to clean up on. But this coaching staff, just in this first 15, just in this game alone, has shown that they are willing and they're able to adjust to what this team is doing and doing it on the fly. And that is a positive note moving forward. 3 other positive notes moving forward, 3 things that we want to see continue from week 2 to week 3, but also 3 things that we want to see go away before Cincinnati on Monday nights. All of those coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And we're doing that today thanks to our friends over at LinkedIn. Who knows, when you're hiring for your small business, you want to find qualified professionals that are right for your role. That's why you need to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. But LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals that you can't find anywhere else. Even those who aren't actively searching for a new job might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. So hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn, because LinkedIn knows that small businesses are often wearing too many hats and don't have the resources to hire the way they would like, which is why they're always finding new ways to make the process easier. So join 2.5 million small businesses that are using LinkedIn for hiring. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Today's episode of Locked On Commanders is also brought to you by Game Time. And Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out all the fluff so you can focus on incredible deals on great seats and don't have to waste time searching for thousands of tickets. Curated deals make it easier for you to find the best price on the greatest seats. For example, my Game Time Picks right now have found an amazing deal on tickets to see the Philadelphia Eagles visit the Washington Commanders in December, because those tickets are available for $137. Great location, great view, which I can see on the app. Or if I want games sooner, I can see the Indiana Fever face the Washington Mystics on Thursday night for $47. And with all-in prices toggled on the app, I toggle on that all-in pricing. I get all the prices up front with no surprises at checkout. So take the guesswork out of buying your tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create your account, use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create your account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. There are 3 things that we want to see the Washington Commanders improve upon from their week 2 win over the New York Giants. And there are 3 things that we want to see them sustain, can keep it, even get better at it. Here on the Locked On Commanders podcast, part of our after action review episode, we are calling it Sustains and Improves, over at commandergameday.com, where I write this up as an article for Washington Commanders website on Sports Illustrated. I'm calling it Stash and Trash. So whatever you want to use, sustain, improve, stash it and trash it, whatever nomenclature, doesn't matter. It all burns just the same. So stash number 1 and sustain number 1, rather, I should say, is to run, right, quote unquote, little pun there for you, run the offense through Brian Robinson Jr. Brian Robinson Jr. on Sunday, 17 carries, 133 yards. Those of us, because every day, as you know, I've been a big B-Rob guy since he was drafted. If you've been here since he was drafted as an everydayer, greatly appreciate you for your continued loyalty. Even if you've joined since then, it's okay. We still appreciate you. But Brian Robinson Jr. has been a guy that I've had a lot of confidence in. I've drafted him on my fantasy league the last 3 years running because I've got a lot of confidence in him. What hasn't lived up to the hype and expectation is these offensive coordinators. They have not been featuring Brian Robinson to the level that he should. And Brian Robinson himself has always had the confidence. I've talked to him in the locker room several times. He's always known that he could be a major contributor to this Washington offense. Well, on Sunday, he finally got that opportunity. And look, the Cincinnati Bengals are giving up no fewer than 4.7 yards per carry against opposing teams' primary backs to start the season right now. There's zero reason Brian Robinson Jr. shouldn't continue to be a part of this offense, a big part of this offense. So that is sustained number 1 from week 2. We need more B-Rob. Look, and he only got 17 carries, guys. He only got 18 touches total with 1 catch. I mean, the fact that you're getting that much production out of a guy with less than 20 carries, less than 20 touches, that is great, that is sustainable. That is the type of success you need to build on. And I want the Washington Commanders to continue to do that heading into week 3. Improve number 1 or trash number 1 if you're over on Sports Illustrated. The Commanders' lack of discipline, right? There's something wrong, very wrong, with a team that is named after the highest military authority, right? The commander of every military organization, commander in chief, brigade commander, force comm commander, whatever commander you are the highest authority of that element, right? Of that entity. So there's something really, really wrong with a team that is named after that person having a serious discipline problem. And I'm not going to sit here and say the Commanders never have discipline problems, but when you talk about military symbolism, that's what it's supposed to be. So the fact that the Washington Commanders had 5 red zone false starts is absolutely unacceptable. And you absolutely, I mean, that goes without saying, you have to clean those up heading into week 3 against Cincinnati Bengals. Sustain number 2, bring the juice. We got to give a big hat tip to cornerback Benjamin St-Juste, he showed loads of talent and development in 2022. Go back to that 2022 NFL season, and Benjamin St-Juste, his trajectory was just straight up. He got injured towards the end of the season, had to miss some time, all that stuff. Obviously, that kind of brought that into an end. And then what happened between 2022 and 2023, in my eyes, that was most significant to Benjamin St-Juste was that Chris Harris was not retained by the Washington Commanders. He ends up going to the Tennessee Titans. He's their defensive pass game coordinator. Like, it's not like he got hired as a D coordinator. To me, it just seemed like the Washington Commanders just give him a little bit more money, give him a better title, and maybe he sticks around. Instead, they bring in this person that everybody's kind of talked about, right? Basically a glorified high school secondaries coach. And we all saw what happened in 2023. Well, Benjamin St-Juste in week 2, I don't have the official numbers in front of me right now, but multiple passes defense. He forced that fumble. He was all over the ball. Great performance in week 2 compared to week 1. Malik Neighbors still did his thing, of course, but Benjamin St-Juste, I think, really, really solidified himself as a person that you look at and say, maybe this is going to fit. Maybe this is going to work this time around, and maybe we can get back to 2022 Benjamin St-Juste. Don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves here, but it was very good to see that version of Benjamin St-Juste show back up. So very happy for that. Want to see that some more against Cincinnati Bengals. Going to be a little bit harder. Malik Neighbors, super talented. He's not Jamar Chase. So we're going to see what the Washington Commanders dial up to try to keep Jamar, and then if T. Higgins can play as well. Improve number 2, red zone offense. Now, look, nobody's looking to, and the Commanders certainly are not going to give back any of the 7 field goals that led to that win. But the New York Giants, I got to give a shout out to WSA 9's Chick Hernandez because I didn't know this until he shared it with me. The New York Giants became the first team in NFL history to score 3 touchdowns in regulation, not give up 1, and still lose in regulation. That is intense, and that is not a sustainable model. 7 times the Washington Commanders were in or at the cusp of the red zone, and they did not score a single touchdown. If you turn 2 of those into touchdowns, you're winning this game going away. Surprisingly enough, not counting Monday Night Football in week 2 because I did these numbers before that game started. The Washington Commanders did not have the worst red zone offense in the league. They were actually ranked 24th with Miami Dolphins and the Tennessee Titans, but that is not the type of good news that you're gonna tip your cap to. So they definitely need to get better there. Sustain number 3, Jayden Daniels development. It looked like his internal clock was sped up in week 1, looked much more calm in week 2. There's still opportunities there that Jayden is missing, but he definitely looked improved and looked more patient, looked more comfortable on the NFL field in week 2. And because of it, he was more accurate. He was able to hang in the pocket, give his players more time to get open, didn't run the ball 16 times. And specifically on a critical second down play on that game-winning drive, that 34-yard completion to Noah Brown. If you go back and watch that play, Jayden Daniels very calmly scans the left side of the field, sees that it's covered by the New York Giants defense, stands in the pocket, lets Noah Brown get free of the safety, delivers the ball. And when he does, he's got 2 Giants defenders within 1.5 yards of him. That is definitely increased internal clock, increased patience and confidence in what's going on around him. That 34-yard pass, not directly, but it gets them into Giants territory, ends up leading to the game-winning field goal. And of course, we want to sustain Austin Cyber's kicking ability. So let's not forget to mention that there as a bonus. Sustain. And then finally, what we want to trash, what we want to improve on is Scary Terry's utilization. That's not a nickname. I'm saying that Terry's utilization is scary. Listen to these numbers, guys. As of right now, Terry McLaurin would need 205 receptions to reach 1,000 yards this season. Listen to that again. 205 receptions to reach 1,000 yards this season. Terry McLaurin's 39 receiving yards this season ranks 107th in the NFL through 2 weeks before Monday Night Football. He trails players like Los Angeles Chargers tight end Will Dissly and 18 other tight ends in production so far this season. This is your number one receiver. Terry's deepest target on a completion this season has been 12 yards downfield. Other than that, none of his completions have come deeper than 6 yards from the line of scrimmage. Meanwhile, 4 of his 8 receptions have come behind the line of scrimmage. That is scary, my friends. That needs to improve. Head coach Dan Quinn agrees that the undisciplined penalties need to improve as well, but there's actually a type of penalty that he's okay taking. Interestingly enough, we'll talk about that coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And we're doing that thanks to our friends from FanDuel. You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel over the years, and that's because FanDuel is America's #1 sports book. Well, we've got a little something different for you now through September 22nd. So this is the final weekend to take advantage of it. All FanDuel customers, you bet $5, you get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out of market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel that subscription at any time. So you can get your 3 weeks if you want to. If you don't like it, you don't stick around, you cancel everything, and you don't got to worry about it anymore. To start the week, the Washington Commanders are 8.5-point underdogs against the 0-2 Cincinnati Bengals with an over-under total score of 48.5 points. I don't know about you, and I understand the Cincinnati Bengals are a very good team. I think they're very good. They're better than their 0-2 record says they are. But I'm actually considering taking the Washington Commanders with those 8.5 points because I think this Commanders team, if they continue to improve the way they have so far, could put up a fight here. The biggest opening line of week 3 is that game. So go to FanDuel.com, download America's #1 sportsbook. Wrapping up today's episode of Locked On Commanders, our first AAR episode of the season. We didn't really do an AAR. We kind of did a condensed AAR episode last week, but this is our first full-blown AAR episode. So every day, thank you for coming through again. Everybody, thank you for making Locked On Commanders your first listen of the day. And every day, picking up with Quinn's quotes. We only have one Quinn's quote today because we do have a fan-voted game ball to give away as well. So WSA 9's Chick Hernandez sits down with Dan Quinn every Monday after a Sunday. So it's day after the game, right? So if it's a Sunday game, it's a Monday. If it's a Monday game, it's a Tuesday. If it's a Thursday game, it's a Friday. Chick Hernandez sits down with Coach Quinn and has a conversation with him one-on-one. I have the fortunate ability to be there and be present for that interview with Dan as well. And what I do is I write an article based on the interview for WUSA 9. And one of the quotes that really stood out for this week's conversation with Chick for me was about the penalties. And what Dan Quinn said was, quote, the pre-snap ones. Those are the ones that we have to not have in our game. I get it when there's a combative one or a holding or a defense pass interference. Those that take place sometimes when you're really battling. Pre-snap and post-snap can't have it in our game, end quote. And I really love this quote because, and this is not Dan Quinn saying like, I'll take a hold, I'll take a DPI, I'll take this. Like, no coach wants any penalties, right? And obviously, if you're a repeat offender and all those things, like, you know, I guarantee you, like Nick Bellore, you know, he's at the holding call on this on the opening kickoff. He's at the unsportsmanlike conduct on the next kickoff return. Like Coach Quinn isn't going over to him like, hey, good job, buddy. Those are just out of the heat of competition. Which actually, I mean, even the unsportsmanlike conduct penalty is not an in play penalty anyway. So, but you look at just the string of coach, right? Most coaches would be like, no penalties are acceptable, and to a certain extent that's true. But also, if you're a combatant, if you're a competitor, you have to understand that sometimes, man, penalties are just going to happen, and you're going to have to kind of live with them. It's just part of the job, and it's part of the flow of the game. Like Dan said, when you're battling, sometimes those things just kind of happen. So it was really refreshing for me personally to hear Dan Quinn talk about that because, you know, as a leader in my past career, it always bothered me when leaders just kind of spewed, not clickbait cliches because they sounded good, but they weren't actually realistic. You got to understand these guys are human, and everybody's, there's going to be bad calls, there's going to be good calls, and I think that if you're a player, understand that your coach understands like some of these penalties are just going to happen from time to time. I think that makes you play a little bit looser, a little bit faster, with a little bit more confidence. Understand, like if you do get caught holding once, or you do get a DPI because you're running through a guy and whatever, and it just kind of happens, you're not just going to be toast, because of that one mistake. Again, can't be a repeat offender. That's a little bit different, right? But it's good to know as a competitor that you have a little bit of that wiggle room as well. Moving on now. So game ball, right? So the Washington Commanders win and we give out a game ball. Of course, the team gave out their game ball to kicker Austin Seibert, who made 7 of 7 field goal attempts, a new franchise record. Previously was 5 field goals in one single game. The NFL record is 8. So Austin Seibert was 1 short of that. And everybody's hoping that we're never going to see Austin Seibert test that record ever again. But put it up on the Locked On Commanders community tab on YouTube for a vote. So if you didn't get a chance to vote and you want to vote on future polls, we're dropping polls there almost every day now, to be quite honest with you. And I'm writing articles based on a lot of those polls for Sports Illustrated's commandergameday.com. So if you want to get in on that, you can go head over there and do that. But a lot of you went over there already and voted for the game ball for week 2. 79% of the voters chose Austin Seibert. So Austin Seibert gets our Locked On Commanders game ball for week number 2. One of the voters commented, quote, "All of these guys you listed did a phenomenal job today in their own respect. However, it's no doubt we wouldn't have won without Austin Seibert. What a week for him. Hasn't been on the team for a full week, and boom, baptism by fire." So Jaden Daniels, Brian Robinson Jr., Benjamin St-Juste, and then the others option, which I'm probably going to take the others option out in the future, to be honest with you. All were candidates for the game ball and received votes as well. One voter said, quote, "I was torn between Seibert and B-Rob, but voted for Seibert's. We needed every single one of those field goals, and he made every single one of them." End quote. We also got a shout out for Austin Eckler. One voter saying, quote, "I can't decide between the guys. Good Lord, my man B-Rob killed it. St-Juste came through in the clutch. Jaden showed growth. And Lord, our kicker Seibert scored effortlessly." And I think Austin Eckler deserves an honorable mention. So look, it's a win. It wasn't the prettiest win in the world, but a lot of good happening around the Washington Commanders. That is the main takeaway, I think, from this after action review. And I thank you for coming through to enjoy it with me today. I hope you enjoyed all that information, all that data, all those observations. In the next episode of Locked On Commanders, we are doing our film review. We're going to look at Jaden Daniels. I'm going to look at not every Jaden Daniels pass reps. We're going to look at his pass reps during sacks and scrambles, not just in week 2, but I'm going to compare week 1 to week 2 to see where he really improved in those elements. We're also going to look at how the Washington Commanders attacked Malik Neighbors, because you're going to see that young receiver again. And then I haven't actually decided who the third member of the film study is going to be yet, but we will get there as well. If you have a nominee for that third person, go ahead and send it over to me via text message as a Locked On Commanders insider. Go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnCommanders today. Become an insider, have those one-on-one conversations with me, get that bonus content, and also help influence this show by dropping your nominee for the third member of our film review this week. For your next listen, check out Locked On NFL. In the morning, the madman Tyler Rowland kicks you off, and in the afternoon, roll through the barbershop with Tony Wiggins for some real NFL talk. It's the new Locked On NFL, and it's twice a day. As always, thank you for making Locked On Commanders your first listen of the day, every day. Thanks for coming through every single day. And until we speak again, if you're out and about, please be safe, be kind, and I will see you right back here next time for another episode of Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.